Greetings everyone and welcome. It's time once again for another episode of the Captain's Table, this one being episode 2 in season 2. Now to recap a little bit on last week's episode, last week I was musing on whether or not I was going to change my release schedule and get rid of a Sunday video, just bumping everything back by a day, or whether or not I was going to keep it. I was also musing whether or not I was going to have a vehicle to start my new job with, whether that vehicle was going to be given or bought some way, shape, or form. Well, after doing some of that musing, I have decided that I am going to stick with the Sunday video because not a lot of channels do a Sunday video, and I know there are some of you out there who absolutely need some of my wonderful buttery voice. So Sunday is going to be the Captain's Table, partly because I want to continue doing a Sunday video, and partly because I feel that Sunday is going to be the perfect day to do this video series. Pretty much, it's a good in-between. It's right at the end of what is a weekend, and right at the beginning of the start of the new week. So it's a great spot to recap what has happened in the week, and a great spot to kind of project what I expect in the coming week. Now, this last week, for me, has been actually pretty boring. Not a lot has happened in this last week. Formally gave my employer my 2 weeks notice, and I didn't really actually give them 2 weeks. I gave them what was effectively a week and a half. So they are, at the very least, well aware that I am leaving formally. It's in writing, email submitted. Granted, my employer knew a week prior to that formal notice that I was effectively leaving my job, but I didn't have anything in writing, and I didn't want to officially submit anything in writing. Of course, if you remember from last week, they basically told me that if they found my replacement sooner, they would just let me go, which kind of has set the tone for this week and will pretty much set the tone for next week as well. Now, the big news, though, for me was I finally do know what vehicle I am going to have going forward. Now, there was a little bit of question here on whether or not my dad was going to give me his old Honda Pilot. And his reasoning for not knowing was basically him debating on whether or not he was going to keep the vehicle for a couple of more years. Now, he does want to buy a new vehicle, and he has for a while, but he's wanted to hold off on it as long as possible because the Honda Pilot is completely paid for. It's paid off. There's no car payment, and if you're one of those people who has a high car payment or who doesn't have a car payment, you might feel that sentiment quite heavily that not having a car payment is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So he's basically been on the fence since I got my driver's permit way back in October about what he was going to do with it. Now, the other contributing factor in his decision to keep the car had to do with his retirement activity. Now, his retirement activities, for the most part, focus around sailboat racing and just sailing in general. But it's specifically the sailboat racing. Now, why that factors into it comes down to the equipment used for the races. Specifically, he has bought a set of racing sails that are separate from the everyday used and abused sails that are typically on the boat. And so they're kept at a special storage location and kept well maintained. But that means bringing them out and taking them back every single time he uses them. So that's basically once a week. The problem is not getting them out there so much as it is getting them back. Because when they're coming back in after a day of sailing, they're almost always a bit wet. Whether that's from the spray and surf, or because they hit the water when they were putting them up or taking them down, or because it was just a wet day. It is the Pacific Northwest. It does have a tendency to rain a lot, or at least so we'd like you to believe. The problem here is that bringing those wet sails back means putting them in the back of his car. And while he's got his old Honda Pilot, it's not really a problem because it's old and it's paid for. It's already seen all of the things it's going to see, basically, and that makes it just perfectly fine for him, at least mentally, to throw those wet, nasty, soggy sails in the back of his car and not worry about cleaning it up. Doing that with a new vehicle, though, it has a bit of reservation about all of what is effectively the salt that's going to eventually cake on in the back of that vehicle. So there was some debate there, but back last year in November, he sold his sailboat. So he doesn't have a personal sailboat to use for racing, and he's no longer a member of the sailing club that he was in with that boat. So he can't use any of the club's boats to go sailing on either, which basically means he's not going to be doing any sailboat racing, at least not with his sails, on a boat that he owns or is the captain of anytime soon. Now, he might join another crew, but that's not going to require him to bring his sails to and from the practices and the races. So the timing there works out really, really well in that respect, and as a result, he's decided that because he doesn't have to deal with the sails, and because he's looking for a new vehicle anyway before he officially retires and no longer has an official income from an employer, which does impact how easy it is to get an auto loan, or any other loan for that matter, apparently. He's decided he's going to go ahead and buy a new vehicle sometime this month, preferably before the end of the month. That means his old Honda Pilot comes to me. So, hey, basically free car. He's willing to sell it to me for $1. Now, officially, though, I don't know how that's going to work out so well at the title transfers, because the state of Washington is particularly bitchy about underselling vehicles. They want their tax money, sort of thing. Although I don't know how that's going to work out necessarily with the fact that it's a family car, since it's still in the family, father to son sort of thing, as opposed to one person to a complete stranger or friend of the family kind of thing. That being said, though, the timing does not quite work out well for me, unfortunately. But it's not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing, and fortunately, I'm in a position where we can kind of just skirt around this little dilemma. The dilemma being, I need to have a vehicle effectively full-time starting on the 12th of February when I start my new job. And basically, starting next week, on Monday, I'm taking possession of the vehicle. The problem is, I don't want to pay to transfer that vehicle, its licenses, its plates and registration, and the insurance on it while I live in Seattle, because those fees and taxes are absolutely insane compared to the rest of the state. Car tabs, those little stickers on your license plate, in the city of Seattle are something like $400 or $500 every 2 years, versus the rest of the state where they're $50. It's 10 times more expensive to register and license your car in the city than it is in any other city. Now, because my lease is up here at the end of March, I'm planning on moving sometime in the next month to 2 months. And because I'm planning on moving, not only do I not want to pay for all of that expensive licensing and paperwork, but I don't want to have to pay again to change all of the addresses on all of the stuff. So, to get around it, what my dad and I have effectively decided to do is that he is going to retain ownership of the vehicle officially until after I found a new place to live and I've officially moved out of Seattle. And once that happens, once I've got my new address, then I can go and I can basically update everything. Although I think I might need a piece of mail. I'm not sure. We'll see how that works. But the basic end result is once I have my new address, once I start getting mail there, officially I can go ahead and I can change all of the stuff there. I can actually go and I can get the vehicle registered in my name and the insurance. And even better, because it's an older vehicle and because it's no longer in the city of Seattle, my insurance should actually be cheaper by Not really an insane amount, but, you know, 10, 20 bucks a month, really, really kind of nice. Speaking of saving money, I did a little bit of cost calculations based on the new tax rate that our great supreme leader Trump has decided to install for us, and calculated my new benefits package because I've signed up for all of that, and I have discovered that I am going to be bringing home actually quite a bit more per paycheck than I had initially thought. Initially, I thought going from my current pay rate to my new pay rate with my expected taxes, withholdings, and benefits, I was probably going to be making about $300 more per paycheck. In reality, I'm going to be making closer to $400 more per paycheck, and that's my take-home. That makes me so happy because that $100 basically ends up really adding up in the long term. That's $1,200 extra every year. That's a good chunk of money. So that does really make me happy there. Now, going forward from this point, what I'm looking at is next week on Tuesday, I'm going to head down. I'm going to miss a day of work, and I've told my supervisor I'm missing the day of work. I just didn't bother to tell my boss because I don't care. But I'm going to miss a day of work. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to finish filling out any paperwork that I still need to fill out, including signing anything that needs to be signed or clarifying anything that needs to be done before my official start date on the 12th, as well as formally tour the property, because I actually didn't do that. That was something that was planned for the second interview with my new boss, but because I have connections with people in the company, I just got them to recommend me for the position, and because they were hurting, they just offered me the position. No second interview required, just you have the job. When can you start? So I'm going to go down there and I'm going to tour the property. I'm going to take a look and formally get a grasp on what it is that I have to psych myself up for. Take a look at the maintenance shop, see what tools are there and what tools I'm going to have to go buy. And yeah, I'm probably going to have to go drop $1,000 on things like saws, drills, screwdriver sets, Allen wrenches, pretty much all of it. I'm going to have to go drop all that because I don't have any of these tools. Everywhere I've worked has always had somebody who's had them. But I am looking forward to doing that at the very least. Also, last day, the 9th of February. And I'm kind of excited for that last day because it's the end of the pay period and I don't have to worry about ever clocking back in with that place where I'm oddly the only employee who actually still clocks in. And I don't think it matters. But I'm going to go and finish off there at the end of the pay period, and I'm going to go in and start my first formal Saturday, Sunday weekend that is my regularly scheduled weekend. This is the first time in my working life that I will have a Saturday, Sunday standard weekend. I cannot tell you how excited I am to actually have that, but simultaneously, I'm going to miss having Monday off. Having a Monday off is absolutely fantastic because then when I need to do something, I can do something. The other thing I'm going to be doing going forward is I'm constantly keeping my eye out now for apartment options. And I've been looking at some of the rental rates down near my new employer, and unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot of a discount compared to what I'm paying for right now in my current place. Now, granted, I haven't yet got my rental increase notice, and I highly suspect that I'm going to get one, and it's going to go up by at least $100. So technically, what I'm looking at for a one-bedroom with the only amenity I actually care about, which is washer and dryer in unit, I'm looking at about a $300 to $200 reduction in my expected future rental rate, and right now it's about a $100 to $200 discount from what I pay now. Now, that isn't as much as I was hoping to get, but that's still something. However, what I have been looking at and paying attention to is the fact that the one-bedrooms in that region tend to be going for about $1,050 to $1,100 a month, and that's with washer and dryer and unit. But for an extra $100 a month, $1,150 to $1,200 a month, or barely less than I pay now, I can get an extra 300 square feet and get a second bedroom and a slightly bigger living room. So I've actually been looking at getting a 2-bedroom option, and I'm kind of leaning towards that. What that would mean if I got the 2-bedroom was that I could actually set up one of the bedrooms as effectively as an office, kind of a guest suite, just put a little twin bed in there or something, make it available, but basically set it up as a gaming office specifically. Get a green screen up, get a webcam, get all of the fancy things so you people can see my wonderful face. And if for whatever reason I do find myself in a situation where I need to have a roommate or I want to get a roommate, I have the space available and I can do that. So that is an option on the table, and that is hopefully planning that move here in about a month and a half. So probably a month from when I start. And once I start and I get an idea and I get that first paycheck at the very least rolled through, then I can go and I can start actively like touring these apartment buildings. Possibly on my lunch, possibly not. I might have to take a day and just go and tour them. It'll really depend on the apartments that I'm looking at and their office schedule. Anyway, that's what's happened this week for me, what I kind of expect to happen going forward, and what I'm hoping for the future. If you like the video, hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. And if you have any suggestions, tips, tricks, or whatever else I might need going forward, because I'm looking at a little bit of new territory here. This is kind of crazy and kind of scary and kind of exciting all at the same time. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.